right now we are here with Carol Egbert, and she is the Comcast NBC Universal Military Veterans Affair person. Welcome to our little show. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm honored that you asked me to be on your, what I guess is probably not a little show, so thanks for having me on. And yes, I lead Military and Veteran Affairs for Comcast NBC Universal, 30-year Army veteran, enlisted 12, went to officer candidate school, so I like to say private to general, and I value my enlisted time very much. And I'm honored to now work for Comcast and as the SVP of Military and Veteran Affairs, a 9-person team committed to engaging the military community. So thanks for letting us tell our story.
Oh, no problem. I was just in here. We just had you up on stage here, and you gave an absolutely tremendous speech. I'm so honored to have you sit down here and talk to me. I have just a couple of quick questions for you. I always ask everybody, what made you join?
And that's a really good question at the age of 17. I think many of us, especially, well, no, all those who join for themselves, for something they need. So for me, it was the GI Bill. I came from a family of 8 people, 8 children. Tough to put 8 kids through college. I saw the opportunity, so I joined the band, and it was for the GI Bill. But I stayed and continued to serve out of a commitment to service to the country and service to others.
So my other question to you would be, what do you have to say to our veterans today?
Well, I have a couple of things to say, and one is to our civilian population. Let's take the time to understand the military. Let's not say thank you for your service. Let's say tell me a little bit about your service, and that way we'll all learn a little bit more about each other. Exactly. And when we just say thank you and walk on, we haven't lessened that civ-mil divide. But then for those who serve, especially women, you must tell your story. You must wear the hats with the pins on it. You must own your rightful place in the warrior ethos, because people will never understand that women serve, and we aren't doing a service for those who follow us unless we use our GI Bill benefits, use our loans, our VA loans, use our VA benefits, but women tend to not come forward. So that's one reason when you said, hey, could you sit down with us? I'm honored to do it, because I think we all have a responsibility to encourage those women who follow us to stand up for themselves.
Exactly. And it's a privilege to be able to actually go out and serve our country. We should be proud of that.
We should be proud of it, and we come back, and what you'll find is veterans who come back serve their communities at a higher rate than non-veterans. So we tend to keep that legacy of service going and serve our communities, like you are doing. What a great thing you're doing here with this show, bringing the military story to the community.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I appreciate you giving us the time. Thank you very much.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
You have a great day.
In the 1700s, wrote the Vindication of Women's Rights here in France, and she was beheaded for her efforts. That document became the foundation of our rights here in America, and it was taken up by Alice Paul and Elizabeth Stanton. And then later on, in 1974, we actually won the rights for an education. So this gives you a little context about how some of these women who got master's degrees and doctorate degrees in mathematics and STEM careers early in life did this before we actually had a right to an education. And then it happened with Title IX, Patsy Mink. So we're going to get into this. There we go. Women have served in every conflict the United States has ever had. Yet, we were very little noticed in the upcoming times. So, if you think about that, there were nurses, there were people carrying guns. Even long before that, women took up arms to take care of their property. Women took up arms in early history, like the Amazons, that were buried with their swords and their armor. So, and we've supported battles through nursing, engineering. Also, we did flew for the wasp, as we knew earlier, right? So we have done everything in military technology that you can think about. And there are some amazing inventors that you never thought about. We have served. 15% of the force, of the military force, is made up of military women. Only 15%. We're trying to change that, right? Every day. We have female officers. We have enlisted, and they serve in Iraq and in hostile environments every day, and endure the same hardships as men. So, the first person I'd like to talk about, and a lot of these women are my heroes. We have Henrietta Pearl Terry, served in the Waves. And she was one of the very first women who served in the Navies. She was a professor of mathematics long before being a professor was notable, right? And she served at the Naval Air Force Station, Norfolk, Virginia. And she learned how to fly, and she piloted a lot of her own flights. And she gave those guys information on weather. One of our very first groundbreaking women in technology. And here is her class of 1944, and you can see how many women are actually in that class, getting an education long before we had the right to an education. Now, one of my very, very favorite heroes, her name is Rear Admiral Grace Hooper, and she passed away at the age of 85. But she had a PhD at Vassar in mathematics. And men said that women can't count, right? We have no mind for numbers. These women proved them wrong a long time ago. And she was also known as the grandmother of cobalt. We owe our computers to a woman, right? And she turned the coin computer bug. So when you think about computers, think about a woman invented those computers. She was the grandmother of cobalt and all of that language. Interesting, huh? Okay. Then a little after she died, they gave her a ship. Yeah. Named the ship USS Hooper. It was a missile destroyer.
Hopper.
Oh,
It's the Hopper.
Hooper. Yeah. And so a missile destroyer. Pretty cool, huh? Okay. Amazing Grace. Now, we had a young woman in here earlier, Mary Kay Olsen, who was a WASP. And this was the Air Force service. And I'm trying to hit all of the services. And they did almost 12,650 fighter bombings. And they flew and trained men, right? I like training men for a living. Kind of cool. And they trained men to fight, right? And they would fly these planes around and having the men, shoot at them, right? Pretty cool. Long before it was reasonable. And they said that women couldn't fly. And a long time ago, I was doing a study on anthropometics, talking about the women mass, and it was found that women actually can take more G-forces than men. Imagine that, more G-forces than men. We are more able to be in a jet flyer. Get my words straight here. Sorry about that. So, pretty cool. I like that. So, women in Navy history. And Congress mandated that women enter the Navy Academy in 1981. I graduated in 1975. I wanted to be a woman pilot. And they weren't accepting women into the Naval Academy. I had 4 years active of the 4 years Navy ROTC in high school. I really wanted to be a pilot. But I had my daughter, who's amazing, and she's here. And so I had other avenues I had to go as a single mom.
Right now we're here with Ruth Perry. You were, if I'm not mistaken, a World War II.
I was at the end of World War II and through Korea and into Vietnam about 6 years.
Thank you very much.
I was in 20.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I enjoyed every minute of it, although there was bad days. You always have those. I was first sergeant of 60 girls. That's where I wish I'd have stayed. Then they transferred me, and I was first sergeant of 80 male recruiters. That was interesting, too.
Oh, I bet.
It wasn't the men that I had problems with. It was their wives.
So can I ask you, when you went in the service, it wasn't very normal for women to go back into the service.
No.
So what put you in there
You mean when I went in the first time?
when you went in the first time?
Well, really didn't know any women veterans at all. But I had talked to a recruiter, and they had convinced me that the military would be a good place, had some good points, and that's why I decided I wanted to go in. But my mom wouldn't sign for me, and my dad was not there. They were divorced. So only what I had was my mother to sign. And she wouldn't sign for me because she thought all girls in the service were bad, because that's the reputation they had. Well, you'd heard around that small town. They'd never seen any. None of us had seen any. But my neighbor, she went in as a lieutenant. And that was when I first heard, really got to see one when she went in. I don't know how she did it or why, but she went in and was a lieutenant. And that I didn't want to be an officer. I turned that down when they offered me that. I said, I would rather be enlisted where you had more people to be friends with than one or two. So I liked that. And when I went in, women could go in up to age 50. I don't know if you remember that, the older ones. And I got stuck in a barracks with a bunch of those old ones, and I told them I should have stayed home. I only had one boss then instead of 19 of them.
Oh, wow.
Because there was 20 of us in the bay, and I left 19 of them bossing me.
Oh, no.
And they used to get a big charge out of that when I'd tell them I should have stayed home where I only had one boss instead of 19. But they were really nice ladies, very, very nice ladies, even if they were bossy. And then I got out in 48. I was going to go to college, and I went down to Mount Pleasant, which is a kind of a Christian college.
Okay.
And my previous teacher was a professor down there. Now, since she'd go during that time I was in the service somewhere, she had got this job. And she introduced me to the dean. And when he got through telling me all the things I couldn't do, I said, I'm going back in the service. I was a sergeant. I didn't have anybody telling me this, that, and the other thing. I was doing it. So I went right down to the recruiter when I left there and re-enlisted.
Wow.
And then that's when I stayed in the rest of my 20 years. And I would like to go for 30, but my mom was getting old, and the only way I could spend time with my mother was to get out. So I got out.
All right. Well, thank you, Ruth, for your
I'm
your
sorry,
stopping to
I gotta
talk
go,
to
but
us.
I'm glad to talk to you, and you take care of yourself.
All right. You too.